All right, so we're diving into the psychology of money today. A listener requested this one, and I have to say, I'm really excited about this one.
It's a good one. Yeah.
This book, it's not like your typical hardcore finance book.
Yeah.
It's not about like complex investment strategies.
No, not at all.
It's really about how our minds work around money, which I think is something we can all relate to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so engaging, even if you're not a finance expert.
Yeah, for sure. And the author, Morgan Housel, he's not like an academic or anything. He's actually a writer.
Right. He's got a lot of experience writing for The Motley Fool, The Wall Street Journal, Collaborative Fund.
So he's like a practitioner,
Yeah.
right? He's been in the trenches.
Exactly. Which makes his insights even more valuable, I think.
So one of the big things that Housel talks about is that being good with money, it's not really about being super intelligent or anything.
Yeah, he really challenges that notion.
Like, you don't need a genius-level IQ to be successful with money.
It's more about behavior, right?
Exactly. It's about your habits, your mindset, your ability to control your emotions.
And there's actually a whole field of study dedicated to this. Behavioral economics.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've heard of that.
It looks at how psychological factors influence our financial decisions. Things like our biases and emotions.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that we don't always make rational decisions, especially when it comes to money.
Right. And Housel gives this great example in the book about Ronald Reed,
Ronald Reed.
Yeah, he was a janitor.
A janitor.
And he quietly amassed an $8 million fortune.
8 million? Wait, what? A janitor?
Yeah, I know. It's incredible, right? And he did it through, really simple investing.
Okay, so clearly I need to hear more about this Ronald Reed guy.
So basically, he lived a super frugal life, drove a used car, wore secondhand clothes.
So he was really good at saving.
Yeah, but the key was consistency. He invested consistently over decades and let the power of compounding work its magic.
Compounding. That's when your returns start earning returns, right?
Exactly. It's like the snowball effect. Imagine this. You invest $1,000, and it earns an average annual return of 7%. Over 30 years, you'd have over $7,600.
Wow, that's crazy. So it's not just about how much you invest, but also when you invest.
Right. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to compounding.
I'm starting to see why this Ronald Reed story is so inspiring.
It shows that you don't need to be a Wall Street wizard or win the lottery to build wealth.
It's more about being patient and consistent.
Yeah, and playing the long game, which, let's be honest, isn't always easy.
I know, I'm definitely guilty of wanting instant gratification sometimes.
We all are. Our brains are wired for that quick reward. It's how we evolved.
But when it comes to money, that short-term thinking can really backfire.
Absolutely. And Housel talks about this idea of having a margin of safety.
Margin of safety?
It's like building a buffer into your financial life, to protect yourself from unexpected events.
Like what kind of events?
Anything. Job loss, medical emergency, a sudden car repair. Having that cushion can make all the difference.
So it's about being prepared for the just-in-case scenarios.
Exactly. It's like having a financial safety net. So you don't completely fall apart when something unexpected happens.
I like that analogy.
And it can take many forms. An emergency fund is a classic example.
Right. Having some money set aside for a rainy day.
But it can also be about things like diversifying your investments or having multiple streams of income.
So it's not just about saving money. It's about having options and flexibility.
Right. It's about building resilience into your financial life so you can weather those inevitable storms.
This is making me think about all the times I haven't felt financially resilient.
They've all been there.
Yeah.
And that's why understanding the psychology behind money is so crucial.
Yeah, because if we can learn to control our impulses and make more rational decisions.
We can set ourselves up for greater financial success in the long run.
And speaking of those impulses, Housel dives deep into how emotions like greed and fear can really mess with our financial decision.
Oh, absolutely. Those are powerful forces, right?
Greed can make us chase risky investments,
Hoping for a quick win.
while fear can paralyze us from taking any risks at all.
And miss out on potential opportunities.
Like we're constantly battling these inner demons.
And it's easy to get swept up in the hype or panic of the moment, especially with all the financial news, the social media bombarding us 24/7.
Right. It's like everyone's trying to sell you something or tell you what to do with your money.
And it can be hard to filter out the noise and make decisions that are truly in our best interests.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we stay grounded and make choices that align with our values,
Yeah.
not just our emotions?
Well, Housel makes a really interesting point in the book. He talks about how everyone's financial journey is unique.
In what way?
Like, Our experiences, our upbringing, our cultural background, all these things shape our perspectives on money.
That makes sense. I mean, if you grew up in a family that struggled financially, you may be more cautious with your spending.
Exactly. Or if you've experienced a major financial setback, like a job loss or a market crash.
It's going to impact your risk tolerance.
Absolutely. So there's no one-size-fits-all approach to money management. What works for one person might not work for another.
So it's about figuring out what works for you based on your own circumstances and values.
Right. And that's where self-awareness comes in, really understanding your own money story and the factors that influence your financial decisions.
I like that, your money story. It's
Mhm.
like we all have this narrative that we've built around money,
Based on our experiences and beliefs.
and sometimes those beliefs can hold us back.
Or lead us to make choices that aren't actually serving us.
So how do we rewrite those stories? How do we challenge those limiting beliefs and start making more empowered financial decisions?
Well, one powerful tool is a money journal.
A money journal.
It's more than just tracking your spending. It's about digging deeper
Into what?
into the emotions behind those purchases. Were you feeling stressed? Were you trying to keep up with the Joneses? Were you seeking comfort?
Oh, wow. I never really thought about it like that.
But our emotions play a huge role in our spending habits.
I can definitely see that.
And by becoming aware of those patterns, we can start to break free from them.
So a money journal is like a way to bring those unconscious spending habits to the surface.
Exactly. And make them conscious so we can make more intentional
This
choices.
is starting to sound really interesting.
It's a simple tool,
Yeah.
but it can be incredibly insightful.
All right, I'm sold. I'm going to start a money journal.
I think you'll be amazed by what you discover.
But before we get too deep into journaling, I want to circle back to this idea of the emotional roller coaster that Housel talks about.
The ups and downs of greed and fear.
Yeah, how those emotions can really derail our financial plans.
It's a topic that deserves its own deep dive.
For sure. Let's unpack that in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm game if you are.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
can't wait to explore this further.
We'll see you there.
Sounds good. So we were in the middle of talking about greed and fear.
Right.
Right. And how those emotions can really mess with our financial decision-making.
Totally. It's like we have these two opposing forces pulling us in different directions.
So how do we strike a balance?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that our emotions aren't completely dictating our financial choices?
Well, it's not about eliminating emotions altogether. I mean, that's impossible. We're human, right?
Right. We can't just turn off our feelings.
It's more about being aware of them,
Or-
recognizing when they're influencing our thinking.
And then what? Like, how do we prevent them from leading us astray?
Well, that's where that money journal we were talking about comes in handy.
Oh, right. Yeah. I'm curious to hear more about how that works.
So remember we were talking about tracking not just your spending, but also your emotions around those purchases.
Yeah, like, why did I buy that thing? What was I feeling in that moment?
Exactly. And you might be surprised by what you discover, Maybe you realize that you tend to overspend when you're stressed or feeling down.
I can definitely see that happening.
Or maybe you notice that you're more likely to make impulsive purchases when you're with certain people.
Like that friend who's always encouraging you to splurge
Right. So the money journal helps you identify those triggers.
so you can avoid them.
Or at least be more aware of them, So you can make a conscious choice in that moment.
It's like giving yourself a pause button.
Exactly. So instead of just reacting emotionally, you can take a step back and ask yourself, is this purchase really aligned with my goals?
Or am I just trying to fill some kind of void?
Exactly. And sometimes just that awareness is enough to shift your behavior.
I'm starting to see how powerful this money journaling thing can be.
It's not a magic bullet, but it's a really helpful tool for building self-awareness.
And self-awareness is the first step to making any kind of change, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of change, Housel makes a really compelling case for focusing on the long game.
Oh, right. He's big on delayed gratification.
Yeah, he argues that one of the biggest mistakes people make with money is thinking too short-term.
Like trying to get rich quick.
Exactly. And he uses Warren Buffett as an example. One of the most successful investors of all time.
What about M?
Well, most of Buffett's wealth was actually accumulated after he turned 50.
Really? I didn't know that.
It's a testament to the power of patience and long-term thinking.
So it's not about timing the market or finding the next hot stock.
It's about consistently investing over time and letting compounding work its magic.
I'm sensing a theme here. Patience, consistency, long-term thinking.
It's like the trifecta of financial success.
Okay, I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But how do we actually cultivate those qualities?
Yeah.
Especially in a world that's so focused on instant gratification.
It's definitely a challenge, But there are things we can do.
Like what?
Well, one strategy is to make your future self more tangible.
What do you mean by that?
Like, try to visualize yourself in the future, you know? What do you want your life to look like in 10, 20, 30 years?
Oh, I like that. It's like giving your future self a voice in your present-day decisions.
Exactly. And when you have that clear vision in mind, it becomes easier to make choices that support that future you.
It's like making a commitment to your future self,
Right. And you can even write a letter to your future self.
expressing your hopes and dreams,
Exactly. It's a powerful way to connect with your long-term goals.
and stay motivated, even when things get tough.
Because let's face it, there will be bumps in the road.
Market fluctuations, unexpected expenses, life happens.
But if you have that strong foundation of patience and long-term thinking,
You'll be better equipped to ride out those storms.
and come out stronger on the other side.
All this talk about the long game and staying the course makes me think about Housel's concept of having a margin of safety.
Oh, yeah. That's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
It's like building a financial buffer to protect ourselves from those unexpected events.
Exactly. And it's not just about investing,
It's about having a plan for when the plan goes wrong.
because let's be real, life rarely goes according to plan.
So what are some practical ways that we can build that margin of safety into our everyday finances?
Well, one of the most fundamental is having an emergency fund, right? An emergency fund. That's like your first line of defense when it comes to unexpected financial challenges.
Okay, so how much should we aim to have in our emergency fund?
Well, the general rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
So enough to cover your essential bills for a few months.
Exactly. That way, if you lose your job or face a medical
So
emergency,
you're not immediately panicking about how to make rent or buy groceries.
right, you have some breathing room to figure things out.
That makes sense. I mean, even just knowing that you have that safety net can reduce a lot of stress.
Absolutely. It's like a financial security blanket.
So how do we actually build that emergency fund?
Mm.
Especially if we're not starting with a lot of extra cash.
Well, it's all about making it a priority, and finding a system that works for you.
Like what are some practical strategies?
One thing you could try is automating your savings, like setting up a recurring transfer from your checking account to your savings account every month.
So you don't even have to think about it.
Exactly. It just happens automatically.
I like that. Or even just rounding up your purchases and putting the difference into savings.
That's a great idea. Every little bit helps.
And then over time, those small amounts really add up.
That's the beauty of consistency,
Yeah.
It's like those small, consistent actions over time.
Create big results.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress.
So don't beat yourself up if you have a setback or two.
Just get back on track and keep moving forward.
I feel like this whole conversation has been about shifting our mindset around money.
It really has. It's not just about the numbers. It's about understanding the psychology behind our financial decisions.
And aligning our actions with our values.
Exactly. So that we can make choices that truly serve us.
And create a life that we love.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Oh, right. Like, there are resources available to help us.
There are financial advisors, therapists who specialize in financial issues, books, podcasts, online communities.
It's like there's a whole support system out there for people who want to improve their relationship with money.
And that's really encouraging, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Because sometimes it can feel like such an overwhelming topic.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
So if you're feeling stuck or lost,
Reach out for help.
there's no shame in asking for guidance.
It's actually a sign of strength.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
I've really enjoyed it.
It's amazing how much ground we've covered. From the power of compounding to the importance of self-awareness.
And everything in between.
I feel like I've learned so much about myself and my own relationship with money.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I hope our listeners are feeling the same way.
I hope so too.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the psychology of money. It's been a real pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine.
And we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. Keep learning, keep growing, keep evolving your relationship with money.
Because it's a lifelong journey.
It is.
And we're all in this together.
Absolutely. All right, until next time.
Happy reading, everyone.